Hello and welcome to DKR Sports. I'm Rubin Wright. This is the weekly sports news recap show. In MLB, the playoffs are going on. The Dodgers faced the Nationals this past week. The Dodgers won Game 1, 4-3, and the Nationals won Game 2, 5-2. The series is now tied 1-1, with both teams having a game tonight. The Indians faced the Red Sox this past week. Both games were won by the Indians. The first one 6-0, and the other one 5-4. This now puts the Indians up 2-0 in the series. The Cubs faced the Giants as well. They won the first game 1-0 and also won the second game 5-2. The Cubs are now 2-0 up on the Giants. In the NBA preseason has begun with multiple things happening and basically all of the teams kicking off and playing games, getting to see what the new highlights of their new centerpieces, such as the New York Knicks with their new super team, as you would say it, with Kevin Durant and the Golden State Warriors, and other teams returning. OKC lost to Real Madrid this past week in OT, a shocker. Game was something of, an expectation, I guess. Basically it does show that a European foreign team is very much equivalent to the teams that we see here in the NBA. It also gave us a look at the new OKC without Kevin Durant, with a Russell Westbrook-led team, as well as Steven Adams and Enes Kanter. Golden State has looked good in the preseason so far, with Kevin Durant filling into the team very easily, as well as we saw some flashes from Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry. But the main thing that we have seen out of the Golden State Warriors is they have also had some struggles so far. We've seen Steph Curry take very few shots in comparison to what we're usually seeing, which might be something that we see now. Now that they have 4 superstar players, some people might have to give up some shots. Statistically, it has been proven that they could all get in basically the same amount of their shot loads as they have previously with Kevin Durant now added, but we'll have to see in the future to truly see what really happened. The 76ers have continued to impress now that Joel Embiid is back, as well as Nerlens Noel. We do not have Ben Simmons on the team due to his injury, and we do not know if he'll be likely to return even in this season. But Joel Embiid's back finally after being hurt for about 3 seasons, after getting drafted a couple years ago. But he's back and he's impressing, looking like a true, interesting process, and they waited with the process. They got Joel Embiid, and he's looking like he'll be a dominant big man. This does arise some issues for the 76ers now that they have Jahlil Okafor, Joel Embiid, and Nerlens Noel. Definitely going to have to get rid of some piece. Chicago looked very good so far, with D. Wade and Jimmy Butler both connecting very easily. Chicago, a team you got to watch out for with this new D. Wade acquisition, and a team that could definitely compete in the Eastern Conference with the Cavaliers for that seed in the top seed, as well as make it to the possible playoffs, where they definitely will make it, and then eventually to the championship game. James Harden is adjusting to his new role as point guard in Houston, and he's looking good. Definitely still scoring very well. He had 28 points in one game, as well as his assist counts are up as he now adjusts to this new role where he's the facilitator of the offense and the person who will be controlling the offense at all times. As it was before, he was not in past season where he was the shooting guard and he had other people like Patrick Beverley controlling the offense, but now James Harden is the main man who controls the offense and everything goes through him. Now on to college football. Number 3 Clemson beat Boston College 56-10. We saw Deshaun Watson finally have another good game after they beat Lamar Jackson and Louisville last week. Clemson really becoming that top marquee team that we expected them to be. Number 19 Boise State won 49-21 over New Mexico. Got to watch out for Boise State, always a team that's a sleeper team. Number 20 Oklahoma beat Texas 45-40. This is an interesting thing, the Red Rivalry shootout, and what we see is Charlie Strong's time at Texas may be all but over. With the last season, what saved him was his win over Oklahoma. This year, they do not have it after Oklahoma's explosive day with about 672 yards gained, which is the most ever allowed, basically by a Charlie Strong team, and one of the highest ever allowed at Texas. Number 6 Houston lost to Navy 46-40. Navy, one of those dominant teams that runs the triple option. Navy always a sleeper team and a team that's very good in this AAC conference. Houston, a team predicted to go to the college football playoff, loses to Navy, and instead what they have is now Houston pretty much knocked out of the college football playoff. They had it sealed with them after beating Oklahoma early on in the season, and all they had to do was win out. That is no longer possible as they lost to Navy. What it also does is allow Navy with only one loss to possibly fight for that AAC championship and hopefully for them to make it to the Orange Bowl. Number 8, Texas A&M won 45-38 over number 9, Tennessee. Texas A&M, a very good contender for the college football playoff. Now, Trevor Knight impressing very greatly. Former quarterback of Oklahoma, now a grad transfer at Texas A&M. Texas A&M looks back to the days of Johnny Manziel with Trevor Knight now under center. Number 2, Ohio State won 38-17 over Indiana. JT Barrett of Ohio State continues to impress in a team that very much looks like a solid contender for the college football playoff. Number 17, North Carolina lost 34-3 over Virginia Tech. A mightily interesting game. North Carolina just coming off of the win of Florida State at Tallahassee. North Carolina just absolutely brutally decimated by Virginia Tech, and this now makes rise that the ACC is definitely one of the most dominant football conferences and definitely is competing right now with the SEC with multiple teams in the top 25 and multiple great teams that are looking very outstanding. Number 21, Colorado lost 21-17 to USC. Not really a surprising game. A lot of the experts did pick USC, a team that looks back to beat Colorado. But Colorado, a very good-looking team so far, with great play by their quarterback as well as wide receivers. Colorado definitely still a team to watch out for, who could still compete for that Pac-12 title championship. Number 1, Alabama beat number 16, Arkansas, 49-30, in a game that Alabama just continues to look to impress. They retain that dominant number 1 spot and look like a team that definitely very much will be a solid contender for the college football playoff. Number 4, Michigan beat Rutgers 78-0. A great game for Spates, their quarterback at Michigan, as well as Jabril Peppers, who had an amazing run back that was called back, unfortunately. But Michigan looks like that dominant force. And what this sets up is an interesting game between Michigan and Ohio State coming up, as both teams have now played Rutgers and absolutely brutally embarrassed Rutgers. So, we never know what's going to happen when that happens, because that's going to be one of the marquee games of the season, as well as one that will definitely have major implications on the college football playoff and which one of them goes to the college football playoff. Number 5, Washington beat Oregon 70-21. The old days of Oregon and Marcus Mariota are over. Now the new days of them having to rely on quarterbacks from the FCS schools, as we saw last year and now this year. This year they're even relying on true freshman quarterbacks. But what this did show was Washington, ranked number 5, is definitely here to play. Washington wants a college football playoff spot, and I think they can get one. Number 10, Miami lost 20-19 over number 23, Florida State. Miami, as we thought, Brad Kaya, we thought they were back. We thought they were back to the days of Deion Sanders, back in the 80s, back in the early 2000s, but not yet. Mark Rich still has to work some time to actually get them to fully, be the Miami we want, and they'll get there, but not just yet. Florida State, DeAndre Francois, Delvin Cook looking very well, and Florida State, still in competition to at least win an ACC championship game. Number 24, Utah won 36-23 over Arizona. Utah still continuing to impress, and definitely a team that could be fighting for a Pac-12 championship game, and you have to watch out for them. Number 15, Stanford lost 42-16 over Washington State, and so continues the downfall of Stanford. Stanford comes in with Christian McCaffrey as a Heisman Trophy candidate, and now 2 straight weeks they have been decimated by teams. Now to Washington State, a team that's very much prevalent in throwing the ball. Stanford's defense just could not find an answer for Washington State. And now this looks like Stanford is truly knocked out of the college football playoff. A sad time for Christian McCaffrey, which this will definitely probably be his last season as he looks to move on to the NFL. North Carolina State won 10-3 over Notre Dame in an interesting game that happened during Hurricane Matthew. Water poured down throughout the entire day. Field was muddy. And what the game took us back to was one of those old 1940s, 1950s football games where it was mud and all you did was basically run the ball. Very little passing because you couldn't pass the ball. Hard to grip the ball. One thing that definitely hurt DeShone Kizer, a Notre Dame offense that relies on passing the ball. But DeShone Kizer could not pass the ball, and what it led to was them just getting brutally decimated by North Carolina State due to a failed punt attempt that got blocked that allowed North Carolina State to score. Without that punt attempt, we probably would have went into overtime. And to the AP Top 25 now after this, the top 5 teams remain the same. Number 1, Alabama. Number 2 is Ohio State. Number 3 is Clemson. Number 4 is Michigan. And number 5 is Washington. All stayed the same. Texas A&M moved up to number 6. Nebraska now moved up to number 10 after a nice win this week. Baylor is now at number 11. Ole Miss is at number 12. Houston falls to 13 after they were at number 6 the previous week after losing to Navy. Florida State has now moved up to number 14 after beating Miami. This previous week they were number 23. Boise State went up to 15 from 19 as they try to compete, be that sleeper team that Houston wanted to be. Miami, after losing to Florida State, falls to number 16 from number 10. Virginia Tech goes up to 17 from 25 after they beat North Carolina handedly. Arkansas falls to number 22 from 16 after losing to Alabama. And 3 teams are new to the top 25 team. Auburn at 23, Western Michigan, an undefeated team and a team you have to watch out for at number 24, and Navy, who beat Houston, is now at number 25, and Navy looks to impress still. So let's move on to the NFL. Arizona won 33-21 over San Francisco. An interesting game for Arizona as they move back. Now they try to return to winning form. New England won 33-13 over Cleveland in Tom Brady's return, and also another disastrous day for Cleveland quarterbacks as they fell to Terrell Pryor in the final minutes after all other quarterbacks were hurt. But Cody Kessler is heard to be returning next week. Philadelphia lost 24-23 to Detroit in Carson Wentz's first interception, as well as the first 2 turnovers for the Eagles this season. And a last Hail Mary was Carson Wentz's first interception as they tried to, with about a minute left remaining, tried to march down the field and score. Chicago lost 29-23 over Indiana as Andrew Luck looks to now impress a little bit more and is getting his lucky form back. Tennessee won 30-17 over Miami. Tennessee with Marcus Mariota looking to impress and hopefully possibly fight for a playoff spot if they can continue to win. Washington won 16-10 over Baltimore. Washington with Kirk Cousins looking to bounce back after a terrible start they had to the season. Baltimore looking to hopefully continue their good start, but now losing. They'll have to look back to get back on track next week. Houston lost 31-13 to Minnesota, a Minnesota team that is the only undefeated team remaining, and Sam Bradford looking like a great quarterback to replace Teddy Bridgewater after his injury. Minnesota, definitely a team that could possibly go to the Super Bowl. The New York Jets lost 31-13 in Pittsburgh. New York, very much an interesting state where Ryan Fitzpatrick, some calling for him to be benched, and in Pittsburgh, they're having great success. The only thing that's hurting in Pittsburgh, Antonio Brown's not allowed to celebrate, but they're still winning. Don't worry about that. Atlanta won 23-16 over Denver. Now, does Atlanta finally get their respect? Their offense still performing great. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. The one thing that hurt Broncos definitely was Paxton Lynch basically making his first career start for the Broncos. Trevor Siemian, obviously more of a polished person, and not only see why he was more of the chosen candidate in the preseason, but the Broncos still are in contention to make it back to the playoff and hopefully to another Super Bowl. Don't worry, Broncos fans, but one team that is definitely impressing is the Falcons. That is definitely looking like a team that is definitely possibly going to make it to the Super Bowl. Cincinnati lost 28-14 in Dallas, and there's some things in Dallas. Dak Prescott looks like he definitely will remain the starter of Dallas Cowboys even when Tony Romo gets back. He's looking very impressive, and all I can say is Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, they're leading this Dallas Cowboys team to a playoff run, and Jerry Jones can all but be enthused because he thinks right now this could be a Super Bowl year for them, and it would be an impressive one at that if 2 rookies could lead them to it. Buffalo won 30-19 over the LA Rams. Rex Ryan now has a 3-game winning streak, and oh, did he make the media know that in his press conference. He told the media, when does Rex Ryan ever have a 3-game winning streak? But Buffalo is definitely impressing. Tyrod Taylor very much improving and looking like a great quarterback for the Bills. The Bills now looking like they can make a playoff run. San Diego lost 34-31 to Oakland. Oakland continuing to impress with Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, and Michael Crabtree. And San Diego continuing to look very bad. Phillip Rivers trying to do everything he can, but with no Keenan Allen, it's hurting very bad. Joey Bosa did make his first career start, looked okay. Melvin Gordon as well looked okay, but Phillip Rivers is just, his career looks to be dwindling down. He doesn't get a Super Bowl ring, but he will make the Hall of Fame. New York Giants lost 23-16 to Green Bay. Odell Beckham back to his former ways of getting touchdowns and good receiving yards. One important thing here, and the thing is he kissed the net that he firmly kicked last week. So he looks to be, under controlling his attitude after Tom Coughlin and other people have called him out on it. But they still fall to an Aaron Rodgers offense that looked all but unstoppable until pretty much until the end of the game. This has been all from DKR Sports. I hope you join me next Monday where we recap this week's sports and we get to see what's happening in the sports world. Remember to catch us on other, channels of our sports stuff. We have NFL shows, we have fantasy football shows, we have a whole bunch of variety stuff. But catch us later. I'm Rubin Wright, DKR Sports.